Voilà. J'attends qu'on arrive à 40 personnes. Ok, bonjour à tous. Merci d'être là parmi nous.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here with us today. Thank you to all our panelists for contributing to our sixth virtual network, Adaptation and Water in Africa. The first thing to mention is that there is interpretation, simultaneous interpretation, which allows you to follow the meeting.
We have live translation available today. If you need to follow this session in English, all you have to do is click on the interpretation button that's at the bottom of your screen and choose the language you need to follow in. So we have English or French. Donc voilà. Donc je m'appelle Eva Radek.
My name is Eva Radek. I'm in charge of the coalition and the events at Climate Change Organization. Just to introduce Climate Change briefly, it's an international association started in 2015 before the COP21 event. The idea was to gather all the non-state members in order to get them to work together regarding the climate action. We have a portal, online portal, which displays various information regarding local or territorial climate action, both in English and in French. This portal insists on various fields, actions, good practices, and debates on this issue of climate in Africa. We also have an observatory. For the last 3 years, we have published a report on a world scale, our observatory for climate action analyzes what has been carried out, concrete actions. You can find all of these information on our website, which you can see on a chat box now. And we do also organize annual summits in Africa. We gather our community, and this is an opportunity for all the members of our various coalitions, African coalitions, to gather and meet to work together and to continue working on the various issues and also continue to work on the roadmap, which is Coalition Gets. This year, unfortunately, we were not able to attend the summit in Kigali because of the health crisis, which is why we have decided to start this series of virtual virtual workshops. We started this series of virtual workshops to continue mobilize our network and to continue touch base with all of our pilots. And we started in July. So I will now hand over to Marie-Laure. She's the CEO of the French Water Partnership. She's also the co-pilot of the Coalition Water French, and she will be helping us now. I thank you for being here with us, and I wish you a good workshop to all of our participants. Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Marie-Laure Mercamp, I'm the director for the French Department for Water. I want to thank Climate Change that we have been working with them even more so lately to raise awareness about climate and water, especially even at the last COP25 event. This is a great opportunity to break silos and to really talk and with people who are more directly concerned and connected to the issues and the challenges of water. It's very important to enlarge the audience and the people involved regarding all these issues. Just a few words about the French Water Partnership. French Water Partnership also has a status of an association, which was founded in 2007 and counts about 200 members. which you can find spread in 6 various sectors, colleges. We have the state is one of our members with various ministries working in water, the French Development Agency, the French Institute for Biodiversity, or the water offices overseas. You also have other members, which are either local authorities, the City of Paris, Lyon, and others, various actors from the political life, with many large companies like EDF, the electricity company, and other innovation companies. You also have research centers, CNRS, the International Office for Water for the training aspect. You also have various foundations and organizations, and another group of physical people who come in their names. All these members work together as part of the French Water Partnership on 4 main issues with subgroups, various issues. The first group, which sort of oversees water, it's a SDGs with the climate change. There's 6 are dedicated to soft water, and 12 related to water in the SDGs. Other issues: water and climate change, biodiversity, and nature-based solution. And the 4th one, which is access to water, clean water, wash. All our members have in common to work on the international scene in Africa, and their mission of the French Water Partnership is to make sure that all the issues of soft waters come first on the agendas on the international scene, and to make the solutions that have been developed by French actors, stakeholders, known to the public. And this is what some of our speakers will be saying today. Before I hand over to the roundtable and to the other panelists, I would like to inform all of our participants of 2 places where they can find more information on the members of the French Water Partnership and more information on this expertise. Our website, you can find the website Water Expertise France, which we call more commonly We France, and you will find there some projects, some realizations of projects carried out by 102 various players: access to clean water, sanitization of water, water and energy, risk management, water resources management, agriculture, water for industry, protection, and the protection of the ecosystem, and the quality of the water, and fight against pollution. So you will find these various themes and operated, the solutions and the action that have been implemented, the successes, etc. I really strongly invite you to visit this platform. This is my last slide for now. You will also find on our website, on the production side, all our various publications, which we have done with our members, water and climate, place for action on our various achievements. There's another one, better knowing for a better management, and another one, French policy for water management, water resource management. Okay, over to the roundtable now. Thank you, Marie-Laure. Alexandre, Alix, I'm in charge of mission projects with climate change. I will now hand over to our first speaker, Mr. Georges, who is the Director of Water Resources at CICOS, and he will be joined by Georges Gulemvuga, who is Deputy Director at the International Office for Water. Thank you very much. I want to thank, first of all, Climate Change Association Thank you for this partnership also with the French Water Partnership, which is here with us at this webinar in order to present the various initiatives in the second largest basin in the world, which is a Congo basin after the Amazon. This is the second largest in the world. Our presentation will be done in two parts, with myself first, Georges Gulemvuga, the water resources director, and then we will be joined by Christophe Brachet, who is the deputy director at the International Office for Water. As a brief presentation of what is CICOS, which is the International Commission for the Basin of the Congo River, combining these four main rivers. We also have two neighboring countries, Angola and Gabon, which have joined us in order to promote river navigation. We have more than 25 kilometers in the basin, and it seemed to us that it was important that other institutions could join us in order to promote this potential for future development in the region. So in February of 2007, this was enlarged to the mandate of the Integrated Management for Water Resources, GIRE. Our presentation, as you can see, is focusing mainly on the hydraulic follow-up and monitoring. There has been a decline, a strong decline. In the 1960s, the basin had about 400 stations. And came down to about only 10 of those stations. In the 1990s, there has been a decline, and it seemed to us that it was very important. As a previous speaker was saying, we can only manage that which we know. So we need to know the resource very well in order to manage it well. We thought very important to continue to find out more solutions in order to develop these resources. This is a new technology which we are using now, what we call the virtual stations, in addition to in-situ stations to stop that decline. Therefore, the SWOT, which will be our next mission in 2020, regarding information and the space and temporal levels of water. This will be another great opportunity for this project. As we were seeking solutions, CICOS signed a convention with the French Development Agency in 2015 during the COP21 in Paris, followed by a declaration of intent with the French government during the COP22 in order to elaborate a new information system regarding the water and the adaptation to climate change in the Congo Basin, with the help of the French government and the French Development Agency. Okay, and the next slide. So this project, the issue of this project was to reinforce and strengthen the implementation of the integrated management of the water resources in this basin of the Congo in order to adapt to climate change. And one of the goals was to strengthen the capacities of the CICOS to monitor the operational hydrology, to strengthen the institutions and the population and encourage them to adapt to climate change and creating various services for our users. And lastly, to integrate the use of the satellite observation. These were our goals. There were three axes in this project. First of all, the monitoring of the hydrology in order to follow and monitor some station in situ and virtual stations, and also to develop an operational service. That was one of the goals of the project by monitoring the information system. And lastly, also to develop some upstream operational services for all the users. And the contractors were the International Office for Water. Therefore, in this region of the Congo Basin, this was seen and taken as a pilot scheme with the new technique of the space technologies, and is part of a group, of a working group regarding space hydrology with all these various institutions, as you can see at the bottom, the French Development Agency, the Space Studies National Center, etc., in order to optimize the various innovations and the various technologies in the area of hydrology and space technologies, and mostly to release some services upstream in order to develop the various sectors for the water use. What concerns us mainly is hydroelectricity and navigation. And now my colleague Christophe will continue and will show you the various services which we developed afterwards. Thank you, George. Indeed, the International Office for Water supported this project. The RD, the laboratory, the Lagos laboratory gave out a research study in order to follow up and to monitor where we were at with the Sentinel satellite. And with FOD, we hope to get to a precision of 10 centimeters, which is really interesting. As was said, 2 stations were set up with CICOS and the RRD. As you can see, many other institutions group played their roles to try to help set up the hydrometrical stations to transform the flow in the altitude. There was a large workshop, regional workshop. You can see the National Secretary of the CICOS there. And there was a workshop in March 2018, and that gave a good visibility to civil society and to the users as well. The greatest outcome was really a system of information, probably the first one in the world that both integrated the ground data in situ and the flows, and also the space data that were developed with the various organizations like BRLI and RRD, and then the application on hydroelectricity and navigation with the CNR. We are preparing other applications regarding ecosystems, flooded forest. In the next stage, the SIH, which is the hydraulic information system, but also various data in altimetry. This system has been functioning, is functioning actually very well at CICOS. And other application to measure the risks in the Congo Basin. The CNR has also developed an application on the provision for river navigation, and that was the first mandate of the CICOS, as Georges reminded us, to possibly foresee low flow. I would end by saying that the French Development Agency and the various partners, along with CICOS, found that this was very interesting, that this was a good way of exploiting the data, especially the space data and the various models, but that we need to continue and maybe collaborate even more with the national offices in the 6 countries involved and the space. I'm talking about African research, which needs to be even more involved. And we are happy to tell you that we have signed a new phase between the French Development Agency and the French Fund for World Development to develop a new phase in collaboration with GMES for Africa in the Congo Basin, which is a project of the African Union, financed by the European Union. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Christophe, for this presentation, and thank you, Georges. We will continue with our next speaker, Mr. Noureddine, who is working at Lydec from a branch of Suez. This is in Morocco. Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Climate Change for this workshop and all the stakeholders and the panelists. I'm going to share my screen.
Alors, est-ce que vous arrivez à voir ma présentation?
Can you see my presentation?
Oui. Très bien.
Yes, it's good now.
Alors, je présente Lydec, qui est la société de distribution.
I represent this company for distribution and water and electricity in the larger Casablanca region, which is a branch of Suez. I'm going to talk about the sanitization station in Médard and the project of urban agriculture. I will show you now the site and the technology, as you can see on this picture. And the factory, we do the treatment of wasted waters with various technology to collect the micro detritus, and then all the detritus are reduced and collected, and on the floor, on the first floor, first step, you can see these machines where these waste are sent away, are treated and sent away. So the treatment is completed by a descending of the detritus, and therefore we take away all the micro waste and mechanical and physical. The next step is the depollution, sanitization, with the help of an air. We bring back the oxygen into the bacteria to remove the phosphate and carbon. The particularity of this device are all the various infiltration membranes, which are there to clarify and separate the blood from the treated water, the sanitized water. And also it's they disinfect or sanitize the waters and retain whatever is bacteria and other elements. And they also keep and get rid of viruses such as the coronaviruses and the various membranes with the coronavirus has a diameter between 80 nanometers to 200. As you can see on this slide, the membrane manages to stop the virus, the coronavirus, if the virus was still there, present at this level of the treatment. There are various researches going on in the used waters. We're also working on the program to validate the various analysis protocols and samples to be able to detect corona in wasted waters. And as of today, none of these protocols have been approved yet, fully approved. Now, there are other treatments of the mud and we dry the various muds that have been collected and we remove the smell in all of the premises. There is a level of cleansing with various products to release a depolluted air. This fabric or this installation had a strong impact on the environment. You can see now before, the pictures before on top of the slide before the setup now, these lands are completely viable now. Now the station, where the station was, the factory was set up before, as you can see on the top picture, once the factory was set up in 2013, development started around the factory. As you can see on the bottom picture, now as of today, the factory is completely surrounded with buildings, apartment buildings. So this had a great impact on used waters and wasted waters and on the smell, the way that the odors, bad smells were treated. So these pictures were taken from the same angle. You can see after the factory was set up that new building areas were developed. Beside this role of urban development and the reuse of treated waters, we directed this project of the reuse of used waters in an urban garden. In this part on the left, we developed an area in partnership with some researchers to plant various species, various plantations to experiment used waters and treated waters. And this has become an educational area that can serve for researchers, university students, etc. So between the time we started this project, this factory, and today, as you can see on this picture, we've seen and we've had some very good results in terms of irrigations and plantations. About 100% of the species, of the local species were kept, and the treatment has been efficient in 100% of the cases. In 2018, we won a prize for this factory and this project, and we have contributed to the development, economy, and agricultural development of the region. Thank you, Noureddine, for your presentation. Let's move on now to our next speaker, Mr. OiEau, who is in charge of the project CIDR in Benin with the integrated management flooding risks and the water resources, the GIRE and GIRA. Thank you very much. I will now share my screen with you. I don't know if you can see it. Yes. My name is Mr. Médard DAHODO. I'm in charge of the project in Pamiga in the Delta of Benin. I was there during the project and I was a facilitator, which really gave me a good insight, and I was able to mix with the local populations, which shows this project because the flooding in Benin have become more recurring in Benin the last few years, and these floodings have been devastating, and this is also due to the climate change year after year. The area from the south of Benin is an area that is highly populated with the population which is not always used to this flooding, with Cotonou the largest, and people are coming from other regions, come to settle in this city, and they are not always used to flooding and managing flooding. When problems occur, there's a lot of damage. The flooding, the Ouimet region, Ouimet River, this comes mainly from the superior part of the country. There is a sort of infiltration from the largest part of the basin, but when it rains, the water drains the river toward the bottom of the country, hence the flooding. There are other regions from this in the south of Benin, which are on a plateau, which also contributes to the floodings, because the waters leaving these plateaus, these territories, are also fed by other rivers, which increases the water coming down from the north of the country. The floodings in Benin make up the starting point of our reflection at the GRE in order to also tackle other issues which are also recurring, other conflicts such as conflict between breeders and farmers, and an over-exploit. So some of the breeders come with their flocks, with their cattle, and this raises some conflicts with the farmers because of the water sharing. Another issue is the over-exploitation of fishing and other issues as well. The quality of the water that is changed or affected by the erosion and the use of farming and deforestation as well, that is also causing some conflicts in addition to the water issue. The project which we are setting up is a project which is supported by OCEAN Normandy organization. Normandy up till 222,000 euros. This is a provisional budget, and it started in June of 2019 and will finish in June 2021. There are 3 structures in Benin that are also part of this project: the CIDR, CREDEL, which is in Benin, or an NGO, and Africa Green, which is also an African and Benin, from Benin, a company. This project is coming in addition to a wider project that is supported by non-state funds in 6 municipalities. This project is been implemented according to a territorial and regional approach. We need to understand that on a local basis approach. So this project is made up of 3 aspects. The first aspect is governing and knowledge of the GRE and GRI. Another one in these adaptation and resilience measures in the face of flooding. The last one is the spreading on the basin scales. The first, I'm going to talk about the first two aspects of this project. There is an issue of scale. There are three levels or three scales from between the various actors. The scale from the medium and bottom and medium valley of the river, and three hydrological units which are used as researching or research action sites. If we go back to the first aspect, we've had to carry out a hydrological study in order to identify 5 hydrological units and 3 hydrological points that make up the issues of flooding in the BMVO, in that region. We also set up a state of play of practices and knowledge of the water and soils conservation. And we realized that there was already traditional techniques that were used. We have also carried out another research regarding climate change in order to define the various factors that are influencing the floodings and to analyze the changing parameters. Now, regarding the second aspect of this project, adaptation and resilience measures to floodings, we have implemented micro actions with various actions in order to set up some sand dikes and some stone lines to fight against erosions. We also have made some developments along the basin, like some dikes, lanes, and defined a development plan on the hydrological units with the 3 sub-basins. These are larger developments that are being implemented. Also some restoration, soil restoration measures for keeping the natural floods. Also a reforesting of the banks and embankments, and some nature-based solution, anti-erosion nature-based solutions. We also asked to have access to 5 hectares of land that were degraded, which we are using to experiment new techniques like the CES and other techniques to show the populations and to really find some solutions regarding the flooding issues which we are facing. So this is overall the project in order to support and help the populations to improve the capacity of the soil to infiltration by adopting our agricultural measures, and to improve the resilience of the territories to flooding by finding some nature-based solutions. On this picture, you can find a dike on the basin where we are working, and to allow the water to infiltrate rather than flood the land. This is a stone lane, which you can see at the bottom. We don't have stones, actually. This is just ground or clay. if you like, and we make this lane in clay. On this picture, this is with sand. This is a sand lane, a digette in sand lane, in order to slow the flow of the water and the floods. We also do some teaching and interaction with the population through a game, cards game. We train them to play and to raise awareness about certain issues, like water management and integrated management of water resources. Now, regarding the second aspect, the population have really accepted the various solutions which we have implemented around the various developments. But however, our weakness is that among the population, some people are reluctant, some people are not convinced by the scheme, some are not ready to give away some of their land for this project development. So we're trying to work with them to explain the projects to them. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Merci Médard pour cette présentation.
Thank you, Médard DAHODO. We were to have another panelist, another speaker. Unfortunately, they have not been able to join us. So we will move on now to our Q&A session. I have made note of your various questions. Some of you have already asked on the chat box, and the panelists have already answered some of these questions, especially regarding a question for Noureddine. Yvan, I invite you now to activate your microphone. I will ask the question which you wrote. Who does the follow-up and the monitoring of the water quality as part of the urban agricultural garden that you presented? Are you envisaging a larger scale project?
Oui, bonjour à tous.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you.
Merci à Alix, toute l'équipe à la fois de Climate Change et du PFE.
Alexandre and the whole
Nous
team
sommes,
of
entre autres,
Climate
administrateurs.
Change.
Et effectivement, tout est dit dans la question, donc je ne vais
Yes,
pas me
in the
répéter. Vous
question,
l'avez
I think the
entendu
question
depuis Alix.
already
Je pense que c'est plutôt un dialogue
answers.
sur
I think it's more of an exchange or
ces
dialogue that we
projets
can
qui
have
sont mis en
regarding
place
these
de
various
façon
projects,
expérimentale,
which was initially an
Noureddine, sur
experiment
certains quartiers.
in
Est-ce qu'ils sont en
certain
perspective
areas or
d'être répliqués?
districts. Is
Et
it
puis
something that
surtout,
can be
quelle est
duplicated
la sensibilité
in
au
another
regard
area? Of
des
course, what would
réactions
be
des
the
populations,
sensitivities and the reactions
des contraintes
of the
de suivi,
populations? What would
notamment
be
en termes de qualité des
the
bactériologiques,
demands in terms of
lorsqu'on
the
parle de
monitoring?
reuse.
When we talk about
Voilà
reuse
comment c'est abordé
waters,
dans le cadre de ce projet, dans les
how
perspectives de réplication. Merci beaucoup.
How is this approach? How do you approach it? Thank you for your question. Indeed, this garden is part of the on the plant, the experimental garden. Therefore, the reuse waters is always under checking. We always check the quality of the water. So there is a monitoring on a weekly basis. We analyze all the various parameters of the water or the bacterial and all the aspects of the quality. This is a regular monitoring, and we measure that way the efficiency of the treatment and, on the other hand, the quality of the reused waters. We also do, as part of our certification, we also do a monitoring of heavy metals and plastics on used waters. As of today, the membranes present a level of disinfection that is very remarkable. There is a physical barrier. Therefore, the quality of the water meets the standards on the international standard. Therefore, the experimental garden, it's an experimental area for university students, researchers, and a place for raising awareness for farmers and local populations. The generalization of such a project would require a much deeper or more in-depth study. We made that experience to encourage the local population to tackle this aspect of urban agriculture and encourage and raise awareness about agriculture in that region of Mediana, which at the moment is only limited to the area of the plant, the factory. I don't know if I answered your question well, did I? I think so. Yvan can maybe write a note if he needs any more.
Oui, j'ai repris effectivement l'ensemble. Non, merci beaucoup, Noureddine.
Thank you, Noureddine, for your answer.
Un complément
maybe
au
one
regard
additional thing
du contrôle régalien par l'État.
Regarding the control.
Est-ce qu'il y a l'ONE, d'autres intervenants santé qui sont amenés à faire ce que je vais appeler des analyses régulières ou des contre-analyses également pour compléter votre autocontrôle. Voilà. Merci beaucoup.
Yes, you're right. The station of Madyoury is a plant that has received an authorization and permission to use the waters in the region of the basin. Therefore, it is being checked regularly on a termly basis without notice. They can come at any time, every 3 months, to collect samples. They don't send us the results of the analysis, random analysis, but in case of non-compliance, they would tell us, as of today, no non-compliance report has been issued against us. Indeed, we are controlled, by agencies, state agencies. Thank you, Noureddine, for this additional statement. Another question regarding the news, the latest. How were your activities impacted by the health crisis? Did you notice a change in your activities? This is for all the panelists. Any of you can answer this question. How were your activities affected by the health crisis? I can continue. Yes, go on, Noureddine. Yes, indeed, the COVID-19 has impacted the activity. I'm particularly in charge of the plant and the exploitation of the plant. We were actually following our continuous activity plan. So during that period, we were able to continue our mission, because we're talking here about industrial installations, the monitoring, and you cannot really do that from a distance remotely. So we had to be on site to check. Some of the operations were carried out from a distance, but others need to have on-site maintenance. But we did issue a continued activity plan, especially during the 3 months of lockdown, which we had here in Morocco. We started a lot of remote working. Some of them were able to work from home. Everyone was asked to continue working, whether from home or not, but in that transition period, we continue to alternate between remote work and on-site work. I don't think that remote work can replace fully human presence. There is a lot of alterning between home, remote working, teleworking, and I also wanted to add, yes, that the impact was obvious at the regional structure. We are here to support the various countries in the hydrological monitoring at a national level, and also the meteorological and hydrological monitoring. So many initiatives were delayed, were late. We were not able to meet as usual. There has been a real impact. As a regional structure, we have been working with international partners. So whatever was planned for us, for our action plan for this year, was not able to take place. Therefore, we work also from a distance, virtual video conference like we do now, but you know that with the new technology development in Africa, it's not always easy. We often have issues of internet connections. At a regional level, we can do that more easily, but from country to country, it's more difficult, which has caused some delays. Therefore, the impact has been a reality for us. In terms of the pandemic, the level has been different from one place to another, but the preventions, the measures, the preventive measures, etc., are the same everywhere. And this, of course, had an impact on a lot of our activities. In particular for the hydrological monitoring. Of course, if you can do video conference, it's an advantage, but now for the in-situ stations, this is not feasible in many countries. This is just to answer this question. Thank you, George, for sharing your view. Let's continue with other questions. There is a question for Médard, especially around the issue of the conflict between the farmers and the breeders. What solutions did this have an impact on the security? Yes, the farmers, the issue of the conflict between the breeders and the farmers is something that went far beyond the competence of our project. Several years ago, this conflict started, and every year it has increased to the point that some people actually died between the various tribes or groups in the region of this project, between the farmers and the breeders. So the state had to make some decisions, but all that we're doing at our level is to raise awareness, to advocate and to find some solutions. The thing is that populations, when their cattle come and damage their fields, they would kill the cattle, the cows, and a breeder, of course, could not accept that, so they start shooting back, and then it's an escalation. But the state had to make some decisions to implement transhumance planning and various schemes, but this will not be solved tomorrow. This is a long-term conflict. Does this impact the food security? Of course, because when the farmer works in their field at day or at night, if the cattle come to damage the field, they won't bother whether it's day or night. If you find a cassava field, if the cattle comes and they totally ruin the field and eat all the crops. That's why there is a huge problem. I don't know if I answered the question. Yes, that's good for us. I will continue with you, Médard, and another question regarding what has been the first impact on your project in terms of flooding management. We are following some indicators. The project was implemented just only a year ago. Therefore, the solutions which we are trying to implement, we are only just doing this now as far as implementation of the solutions. The objective is to reduce by 15% the flooding and the impact. We are following with these indicators the volume of water which we will allow to infiltrate through our digget and dikes, and the markers we will dig with the various techniques. However, there is a study that enabled us to monitor the indicators. We cannot give you any figures to say the problem is resolved in this or that area or on that level. We cannot do that as yet. Thank you, Médard. Let's move on now with another question. This is for all the panelists and all the projects. In which way your projects with the local communities, or with your project, has been integrated or has been involving the local communities? Sorry, can you repeat the question? Yeah. How much has your project been participative? Have you had the participation of the population? Yes, very much so. We first issued a sensitization plan to the population, and it's up to the population to choose which micro actions they want to implement. So we have supported financially and supported the various solutions. Even today, when we are working on a farmland in order to restore the soils and maintain the water, the populations come and help to do this. We don't look for workers elsewhere. We get the population involved. I don't know if Georges would like to say something about this. The CICOS in the Congo, in all that we're doing, we are doing it with the involvement of the local stakeholders. At CICOS, we involved population. We have national consultation platforms, so all of our activities, planned activities, are being presented to all the stakeholders, and they have to approve of these. And during the implementation phase, we always do it with them. For example, the development of the hydrological system, this was done with the participation of the population, of the stakeholders, of all these people who took part, also in total transparency, who does what, and what level of involvement is the CICOS involved in. So yes, all is done with the involvement of the various stakeholders and all the tools that we have, and all the technical aspects also is done with the technical teams. This is how we work in the Congo Basin. Unfortunately, I'm going to stop here to hand back to our last panelist who just managed to connect. Are you there? Just 3-4 minutes for a very short presentation to Madyoury in Tandia. Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Sorry for the connection issues which I had. In Mauritania, we have been working with the Ministry of Fisheries on a project for rehabilitation of the fishing market in the capital. This is an economical project financed by the bank. But there's also the adaptation and environmental aspect, which is also taken into consideration. I just want to say, first of all, what are the various aspects of this project? The rehabilitation of the fish markets in Nouakchott, to also upgrade the role and the place of the fishermen. There is an entry and an exit that is fully controlled. We want to strengthen the electricity network on this market. That's for security, safety issues. There is also a sanitization project to also develop in some toilets and latrines. There are some housing around the market, and we also want to develop a station for water treatment. We do have a network for evacuation of domestic wasted waters and also of industrial waters issued from the water treatment of fish treatment. We took into consideration this aspect of water treatment in order to collect the used treated waters and be able to use them again, reuse them. In order to feed the project on the seaside project. This is what they will use. They will use the treated waters from that station. But also we want to implement fruit and vegetables markets and use these waters also for this fruit and vegetable markets, the gardens. These two activities along the seashore, which is pretty fragile in Mauritania. Now, to make the connection with the latest news and the COVID-19, of course, we have been impacted. This pandemic had an impact on the project development. We are almost 6 months behind our schedule, of course. We've had to take into account the various measures. We have had to slow down our project development. we had to implement some measures and some protective measures on this market that is visited by more than 10,000 people a day. We have a large flow of people coming and going through this market, so we've had to implement strict measures. Other markets were closed down, but the fish market was not closed down, so we had to implement certain measures. As part of this project, so these so all the projects toward the security and the safety parameters of the project were actually affected to the health measures on this fish market in order to protect the population from the pandemic. We carry out some various awareness actions and supports of the measures, protective measures. Also the control, we take temperatures, control the temperature. So a lot of the things that we were planning on doing were actually affected to the monitoring of all these protective measures. So this is what we're doing regarding the fish market in Nouakchott. Thank you very much to Madyoury. Unfortunately, we will have to stop. We have to stop. I want to thank you all the panelists who joined this virtual workshop. Thank you for sharing from your own expertise and experiences in this field of adaptation and water. Thank you to Alexandre and Marie-Laure, who were our co-facilitators for this workshop. And we thank Dominique, our interpreter, as well. I want to inform you that next week, the 7th workshop will tackle the access to data, hydraulic data, which is close to the theme that we had today. So I invite you also to check our website for more details. We will send you a complete report. You can also have access to the full recording of this session, so you can continue working on these issues. Thank you, everyone, and wishing you a nice day.
Bye bye. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Bye bye. Merci.